Hello, I'm Kent Mayor Suzette Cook, and welcome to Kent Today, where Kent residents share ideas and solutions on important issues affecting our community. Kent is a diverse community, boasting over 130 different languages and a cornucopia of different faces from around the world. Today, we journey halfway around the world to India to learn about traditional dress, art, music, and a few other surprises. We've asked some local friends to share their insights with us. They are Dr. Thomas, yes, who is principal at East Hill Elementary. Aren't you also a doctor?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, all right. See, I thought Dr. Doxa, that has a good ring
I get
to
called
it.
that a lot, though.
All right. So thank you for joining us. We have Harpreet Sikhan. Did I say it right this time?
Yes.
Sikhan,
Yes.
with the Kent School District. Then we have Munpreet Da.
Correct.
Munpreet Da. And you're representing the male Indian perspective on the show today.
Absolutely.
And it is your family that actually owns and operates Punjab Sweets on
Yes.
East Hill.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Then we have a couple students with us today. So we have Ashmine Chima. Ashmine. I do so well with names, don't I, Ashmine?
You do.
Yeah, that's right. Ashmine Chima and Jasmine Dillon.
Yes.
And both of these girls are with the Bridging the Seas Club, which is a Kent Meridian High School club representing Indian culture. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Well, welcome today to the show. What I am most interested in is just starting right off, perhaps as we talk to you, Doxa, relevant to the culture itself. So when we think about Indian culture, what would come to mind that you'd want to share with people? What is the culture?
Yes, the Indian culture and what it means to be Indian to me is very different possibly from other people. We probably all have varying beliefs about what it means to be Indian, but one of the really cool things about the Indian culture is it's very rich. It's very diverse within itself, socioeconomics, diverse in the socioeconomics, as well as the forms of worship and faiths that we have. The values are similar in a lot of the cultures within India. For example, there's a deep respect for elders. There's also a real emphasis on interdependence versus independence.
Ooh, now
Yes.
explain that. Interdependence versus dependence.
Independence versus independence.
I'm sorry, versus independence.
Yes.
All right.
For example, a great example of this is, as I have two children, Seth and Thea, and my parents take care of them as well as my in-laws. Then, as my parents and my in-laws get older and they're going to need support, then it is understood that my husband and I will for sure be taking care of them. So there's that interdependence, unspoken rules or hidden rules, so to speak, that is always there. And that's a great part of the Indian culture. Even a lot of the Indian students growing up within Kent, they understand these rules, like respecting elders. And so if I were to see a Sardarji on the street, I would say hello or Sat Sri Akal to them as a form of respect without even knowing who they might be. So
Interesting.
yeah.
So as we, again, thinking about culture, with Harpreet, with your role in all of this, what difference might you find, or what would you like to add to the idea of Indian culture?
I would agree with Daxa. I think she explained it really well. There is that that involvement of family, where where you're visiting. If they're close by, you're visiting family at least once a week. And then
What is close by?
within the Seattle area, driving distances, and then also just getting together, a lot of family gatherings. As she said, living in extended families, if it's possible. That means like parents are living with you. And that kind of just builds a more supportive environment for everybody, the parents, the children, and then children of theirs as well. So a lot of support, family support that way.
Manpreet, as the male of the group that's here today, how do you look at the traditions and the culture of India?
It's interesting. I came here to the United States when I was 2 years old. So I've been here for 32 years now. And so I've had that cultural experience, and I'm very intimate with the heritage of our culture. But at the same time, I think, like you guys as well, I grew up here. So I also can appreciate and have love for the Western culture as well. But it's very dear to me, the Indian culture. And like Harpreet was talking about, if there's a family member within, close distance, you're almost sort of required to see them and to, show them that love and respect by being there for them. I have a lot of friends that are not Indian, and we'll talk and they'll tell me how they haven't talked to their parents for 6 months. And for me, if I don't talk to my mom for 2 days, she's probably getting worried that I'm lost or something's gone wrong.
I met your mom. I can understand that, yes.
So, just even extended family, cousins that I've never met, people from other villages that were close by in India, those are considered close to us in a sense. So, like Daksha was talking about as well, just the interdependence of family and extended family, that's a huge part of our culture.
Well, and I think if I could be so bold to say, as you've come to Kent, as more and more Indians have moved here to Kent, we've seen these giant houses be built.
Yes.
And at times people have asked me as mayor, is that going to be a bed and breakfast? Is that condos? No, it's a single family home with multiple extended family. So how often does that actually get to happen with folks, where you all live under one roof?
That is very common. It's pretty much the way it is in India. However, in Kent as well as in the United States, we find it more and more often that as our children grow and there's that need for support, for example, young families working, they need to have their parents there to be able to take care of the kids. That is more of a necessity in this culture because there's a more need for support as both the husband and wife might be working. And not only that, but there's so much support within the community. A lot of the students at East Hill, for example, I never really worry about the Indian students because there's so much support at home. And so as far as the housing goes, we see a lot of our families bringing other families together or bringing families from India here so that they have to build a better house or a bigger house to do that.
Ashmine?
Yeah.
What do you find with the culture from a youth, because you were born here?
I was born in Canada, actually.
In Canada, all right.
And
so,
now Americans.
which city in Canada?
Surrey.
In Surrey.
There's a lot
all
of
right.
Indians there, if you ever went there.
I certainly have, and I know what you mean. So when you think about Indian culture as a youth, I'll be interested from both you and Jasmine.
I personally find it really interesting. Growing up, my parents didn't really have enough time to tell us about our Indian culture. But as soon
Why
as
not? Were they working?
Yeah, they still work 7 days a week. But soon when they had time, they told us a little bit about it, like our 10, or when we have actually 11 gurus, which are also known as gods.
11 gurus.
Yes. I just find it really interesting because it gives us an opportunity to tell our friends or anyone who doesn't know about our culture to know more about it, because they often find us, usually when they see me, they say I'm Indian, but not knowing what type of Indian I am. I'm a Sikh, which is also known as a Punjabi. And it's really interesting, and it's really important for us, for me and some other youth, teenagers, to give out that message.
So Jasmine, how about you? What kind of Indian are you?
I'm also a Sikh, but as we say, Sikh, and there's many, communities in India. And so my traditions and my culture, I was also born here in the United States, in California, but in my house, I had grandma, grandpa, and, as I was little, they used to teach me about our culture and our traditions, and they spoke, Punjabi at home, which made me speak Punjabi also, and that was my first language I learned. So even being American, being born here, I was learning how to speak Punjabi, and then when I got to school, I started speaking English. So throughout time, my parents, my grandparents, they always, kept me updated with our culture, and they always told me about it, and they taught me about it, and how we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do, respecting elders and all our family members. So, yeah.
While you've got the microphone, then Jasmine, what are your favorite holidays that are different? Oh, you that are different than we might normally celebrate in the United States.
Well, my favorite holiday is Diwali, also known as Deepavali, and that is known for the Festival of Lights. And on Diwali, we go to our temple. We pray. In the Hindu culture, we pray to the goddess Lakshmi, which is the goddess of wealth, and we light up our houses with candles and lamps and just make our house bright. And also the girls in the family, they also get money from the parents.
Whoa, now we know why it's your favorite.
Yeah, we get money from actually all our relatives who visit us on these 2 days. Actually, there's 2 days. There's Diwali and then a day after Diwali, and so that's what. And it's kind of like 4th of July, because in India they celebrate by lighting fireworks to warn away the evil.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my favorite holiday
Yes.
is Raksha Bandhan, or it's also known as Rakhi. And going back to Jasmine, it's where the girls get the money and the gifts.
What is this about girls getting money? I've got to find out more about this.
But actually, the true meaning is basically we get relatives to come home, and if a sister has a brother, she ties him with this sacred thread, and basically and the brother basically promises after the thread is tied that he will protect her for the rest of his life, and in return gives her gifts, which is, I think it's really
Oh,
important.
wow. Manpreet, since you have been, we're talking about the girls getting money and such, and I thought, now is it pronounced Diwali?
Yes, Diwali.
Diwali.
Diwali. Yep.
Isn't that when Punjab Sweets is just storming with business?
Yep.
Seems like there's a lot, you guys have lots of people coming in from all over this region for the sweets
Absolutely.
that you sell. But as a male in the Indian culture, here's 2 holidays I hear the women, the girls, get money. Is there a holiday for the men?
Absolutely not.
No.
We as men go broke taking care of the women during these holidays.
Appreciate that.
I think a lot of that really ties into the respect level that women are supposed to have in our culture. Our first Guru Nanak, actually, at the time there was a lot of persecution going on of women, and one of the things that he came out and said was, why, how can you persecute these women who are giving birth to kings? And so a lot of that really comes from that, sort of spiritual aspect of respecting our women and making sure that they're, treated well and taken care of.
And so, with my 2 women sitting here, Daksa and Harpreet, how do you repay this wonderful respect now from the men? As part of the culture, are there certain roles women play that might be unique?
Well, as far as the rakhi that they were talking about, where the girls, the sisters, tie a thread on their brother's arms or the wrist, and so basically they're wishing them good health, good fortune. They're praying for them. So it's like Raksha Bandhan means like a protection. It's like a the thread of protection. So that's kind of their blessings they're giving them. So that's one way in that ceremony.
So I know, Manpreet, you are Sikh, as we say, or Sikh. I've heard both ways now. Is that right?
Correct.
And Harpreet
Sick.
and Daksa?
I'm Christian, actually.
Christian, all right. And so we also have the Hindu religion
Yes.
that is not represented here today. But I think you had mentioned that, Jasmine, as one of the gods that the Hindis, or is Hindi, does that mean
It's a language.
Hindu, or Hindi means,
Hindi is actually a language.
see, that's the confusion, Hindu, Hindi. Hindi's the language,
And Hindu is a religion.
Hindu's the religion.
Yes.
Sikh or Sikh is the religion, but it's most noted among the Punjab region,
Yes.
Correct.
where you are called Punjabis,
Yes, we're known as Punjabis. And
All right.
that's also our language also.
is Punjab.
It's Punjabi.
Punjabi.
Yes.
Punjab is the state, so
Yes.
to speak, the
Correct.
region.
Correct.
I never got this in school. Principal?
We're educating everyone now.
Oh, I'm thinking about how geography must have changed since I was a kid, because as we say, the world has come to Kent, and you're one of the countries, but a major country that is now represented through your culture. You're part of this country now as U.S. citizens that reside here, but it is the culture that's enriching us.
One of the really neat things is that Kent has over 3,500 Indian families living here, and so there are so many not only Punjabi people living here in Kent, but also there's South Indian. My husband is South Indian. There are a lot of South Indians that, some of them being Christians, and then there's also Gujarati people, and I'm Gujarati actually.
All right, that one's a new one for me. What is that?
So being Gujarati, kind of like being Punjabi, it's derived from the state of Gujarat in India. It's spelled Gujarat. So like kind of the West Wing in India when you look at the map of India. And so I'm from the state of Gujarat, and I was born there and came here when I was about 8 years old. And so the really neat thing about the Indian culture is there's a real respect and tolerance for people of other beliefs and faiths. And like, for example, at my husband's place in India, on the same corner there's a Hindu temple, there's a Catholic church, and then there's a Muslim mosque. And you know, all those people have been going to those places of worship for years and lived peacefully with each other. And so that's one of the things that's really emphasized within our Indian culture, is that tolerance and respect for others. So,
Well, kudos. I think that to me is one of the symbols of a mature people, where we do hold that respect. When people worship differently, we look at the headlines, the wars across the world, and people are dying for their religion. Well, they die when they're persecuted. But if you are allowed to live peacefully together, as you've seen. So, what would you say with the greatest challenge with the Indian culture here in Kent? What's the greatest challenge in enriching the culture that you have brought with you, along with just living in the United States, living in Kent?
If I can jump in on that one, I think just growing up biculturally, it was quite a struggle for me. I don't know if you all can relate.
Yeah.
It was a struggle.
Going to
Yes.
school, I was the only Indian guy in my high school at the time, and so I never really grew up with that sort of friendship type connection with other Indians. Most of my friends were always American, so it was a challenge trying to be who I was as an American, but also then going home and then being the dutiful Indian boy, you know. And so that was always the struggle for me growing up. And I'd love to get the youth perspective on that and see where, you know, how they're feeling about that, and how, because the influx of Indians has grown so much over the last 10, 15 years, I imagine that, you know, those challenges are different.
Yeah, I grew up here. My family moved when I was 7, and there's that delicate balance, you know. You're living between two cultures, and, you know, at that time, there weren't a lot of Indians. I have my daughters who are going through the Kent school system, or have gone through it, and even at that time, two of them are graduated from high school. But even with them, it was like, you know, cultural norms are so different, and trying to keep the balance between the two and keeping them happy, and just maintaining that, you know, that kind of delicate balance between the two. It's difficult for them, difficult as a parent, and difficult living through it.
Yeah, if I could add to that as well, one of the biggest challenges I see is that although our culture is really deep-rooted and rich and amazing values, really, I'm noticing as students come through East Hill and I've been at Mill Creek Middle School as well, and have come through Mill Creek, that need for support in a different way, not just the financial support that the family can provide, but that real support where families, the parents are really talking with students is really important to have that relationship. I feel that sometimes the relationship is missing. And in India, where it's a homogeneous society, pretty much the society takes care of those things. For example, if I saw Harpreet's daughter, you know, walk across the street and she was with a boy, well, I would tell Harpreet, I saw your daughter with a boy. You know,
My neighbor did that.
there you go.
Tattled on me while I was in college.
That's it. And you know, over here where we're all a lot more spread out, and although we have our Indian community and it's a strong community here in Kent, although we have that, the need for parents to really connect with students is so important, you know, not just providing for like the financial needs or getting them off to school with nice clothes on, but just having that relationship with the students or their children is really important. It's going to help them through their school years.
I am curious then, listening to our youth. So Jasmine, you're president of this bridge group, this
Bridging the Seas.
yes, Bridging the Seas Club. So you know for yourself, as well as many of the other students, what are the challenges?
Well, for me, I don't know. I don't face those many challenges because, like, nowadays, you know, there's a huge variety of Indians that go to CAM, and CAM is a very diverse school. And even in our club, we don't only have Punjabis. We have like many different kinds of Indians, and even actually we don't. Some people are actually white too, American. It's not all Indian, and so you know whoever.
It's those that want to learn about the culture and participate in it that are part of your club?
Yes, and we welcome them in. Our hearts are open, and we welcome them in, and they learn about our culture. They learn about the dances we do, and we join together and we do the performances, and we learn about India and all the traditions and the culture. Would you like to say anything about Ashmine?
I personally didn't face any challenges when
No, you're a Canadian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, totally.
Canadians always know how to have fun.
Yeah. No, actually coming here in East, so yeah, being the Indian only in that classroom was pretty hard, and getting to know a lot of people because you were really different from people, and then other races actually just got along with each other. For me, it was just go up there. Even I had to be weird. I just went up there and said hi, and that's how I just became friends with a lot of people.
That will also serve you well in your leadership, whatever you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Very respectful, thank you. Let's talk about dress, because the beauty that's here. We have the purity of the male. Tell me why white? Why the male wears white?
This is actually my father's. I don't wear the traditional garb normally, but my father's a spiritual man, and so white, it's about purity, being simple, yet comfortable at the same time.
Does it have something to do as well with, does India have high humidity? I think of it as being hot.
Cotton.
And it is humid.
Yes.
And so is the white, even though I also think of dust, but it seems to me that's a cooler color to wear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then we get to the women. Oh my goodness. And we have layers. Beautiful. Whoops. And part of my layer fell to the floor. I have to tell the audience that this is actually what's called a suit.
Salwar kameez.
Oh, now wait a minute. Say that again.
It's generally known as a suit, but traditionally it's salwar, which is the bottom part, and kameez is the top.
Savar,
Salwar.
Salwar.
salvar, chemise.
Kameez.
Kameez.
And then this part, the one you're wearing, is called dupatta.
Okay.
Dupatta.
Lupita.
No, dupatta with the D.
Oh, D.
Yeah.
Dupatta.
Yes.
Dupatta. I will tell you, these are great pants. I'm not going to stand up because this dress, which it's got stitching on it with the beadwork and the silver thread, and I notice all the fine threads and beads and just sparkles.
Yes, and also Harpreet is wearing the same salwar kameez. This is called a sari, and it's usually about 5 yards in length.
5 yards?
Yes, and-
5 times 2, that's 15 feet.
Yeah. So this is called a sari, S-A-R-I or S-A-R-E-E. And the part of India where I'm from, a lot of women usually wear saris, so as well as throughout India.
Wow. So what is on the bottom of your sari? Is that the sari too?
This is still the
you
sari.
have to stand up. I've got to let the audience see. What is a sari here?
Okay.
So you have a dress on.
It's a material that's wrapped around and then
Oh,
pleated.
whoops! And you have a there. We'll hold
I'll
that.
hold it.
Okay. So the material is
It's
wrapped.
5 yards long. It's wrapped around, pleated, and then comes over the shoulder at the end.
Oh my goodness. Oh. And so then you have to sit carefully.
Yes. Usually get used to it after a while. So.
Wow. That is beautiful. Harpreet, and why don't you stand up now? Because you have what I was calling the suit for
So I have
terms.
a salwar kameez. So the salwar is very comfortable and
It's
very a typical Punjabi dress. And this is the dupatta, the chunni, or the veil. And this is typical Punjabi, though Punjabis also wear saris at special occasions as well. But daily wear or even to weddings or parties, this is...
What I find so intriguing, and we won't go into detail here on camera, but I have never put on pants for the bottom part of this sewn in this manner. Because the way they're gathered, so there's plenty of room.
And one size
Kind
fits
of,
all.
yeah, it's kind of very similar to harem pants.
Yes.
Yeah, so kind of like that, yeah.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Suzette, not only do the women get the money during the holidays, they also get the beautiful clothing as well.
And the jewels.
Yes.
Now, different parts of India, like I notice, Harpreet, you have, it looks
Bindi.
like
It's called a bindi.
bindi? Bindi.
Yeah.
And that's literally glued on?
Yeah, this is it's a self-adhesive bindi, which nowadays you can get self-adhesive, so you just stick them on like a sticker, and they come in various colors, shapes, with sequins or made out of felt material, and it's nowadays it's more of just another part of adornment, you know. The art of decoration, which Indian women just love their jewelry and getting all
Yes, hold
dressed
up all your bracelets there. That's what
Yes.
started the trend, I think. You know, now with the
Yeah.
fashion, women have gobs of bracelets on them, and I think it's India coming to the limelight.
Yeah.
Well, what about the men, though? The turbans. Are there Hindu turbans and Sikh turbans?
So the turbans have been, the male has worn turban in you know, many other societies and cultures throughout, you know, thousands of years now. In terms of, our culture in India. It's the Sikhs that wear the turbans.
Only the Sikhs,
Muslims wear turbans as well.
but not Hindus.
No.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Some of the older men do wear turbans, not necessarily for religious reasons.
Fashion.
Like my grandpa used to wear a turban. Yeah.
I think the older generations did.
Oh, okay,
Nowadays,
'cause that's
the
what-
Hindus are not, unless like it's
Not
at a
usually.
wedding ceremony.
Yes.
They still do.
It's in the past. It was known as something that was regal, and sort of signified class. And then during the time of the gurus, the Sikh gurus, they basically wanted to get rid of that caste system and the various classes, and instead of just having the higher class being able to wear the turbans, the 10th guru basically gave a directive to all of his disciples that we will all wear turbans and that we will all be equal as well. And I think that was important for our society.
I have to say that reading about the Sikh religion on through the internet, because there are resources available, it was very intriguing to me on the raising the appreciation of women closer to being equals. And yet when I go to the temple, the men sit on one side, the women sit on the other. So is it really equal, or are the women raised higher than the men, or what is this within the culture?
Well, the gurus wanted the equality. They preached the equality, and they, have said it in the scriptures, like, women should be equal, treated just
Yes.
as with much respect.
It really speaks well to that.
It does, but in practice, we are embedded in a culture also, and so I think there's a lot of that play. What goes on every day. It may be that yes, practically it's not being applied that way, but I think that is the basis of Sikhism. But we are embedded in a culture also.
Also, when I go to my family dinners and different things like that, in the Hindu households, and when we have dinners or even worship ceremonies and things, the men and the women usually sit separately, and that's a part of the Indian culture versus religion. Even when I go to the Indian Christian Fellowship or the Indian Christian meetings, the men and the women sit separately. So it's more part of the culture.
The Indian culture, it's hung on, even though there is a respect or an honoring of both male and female, having greater equality.
Yes.
Women are just more comfortable with the women and the men with the men.
Well, and I think a lot of it is, especially in worship ceremonies and things like that, there's that whole value on modesty and humility, as well as not mixing the sexes. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Well, now this just takes me right back to our youth. To close this program, I'm most interested now with the next generation. You are the leaders, truly, of tomorrow. Although we have such young, youthful adults here, I have to say they are the leaders of today. What do you think is going to happen this next generation with men and women, with modesty, with respect for elders, with you being inundated with other stuff now, not just other cultures, but with coming into a culture that was already established in the United States that may not be quite so respectful? What's happening with the young folks?
I personally believe that some folks are actually forgetting about our culture, and which is, I think it's not good to do that, because that's who we are, and that's going to stay part of our lives forever. And some folks are just spreading their culture out there, like us, for instance, Bridging the Seas. We've done a lot of performances. We have added Western music to our songs, basically accepting other cultures but bringing our culture out there. I just feel that if more folks or more people that come in our generation do stuff like our dances or spread the word, give out information about our culture, it will still stay alive among everyone else.
And I agree with Ashmine, but nowadays, how I feel is that we're getting more modernized, and even some parents, they're also getting modernized. Maybe it's because they've been to America or outside of India longer, so the tradition and culture, it's kind of going low, and so like my parents, they still India. They always talk about it, all the traditions and cultures, and so, I talk Punjabi at home. Even at school, I talk Punjabi all the time. Either it's my Punjabi friends, or I teach my American friends, Punjabi too, like always. But for me, it's the views of the parents and how they teach their children about India and our culture. Importantly, that's how the children are going to be raised, and that's how they're going to, act and behave. So I think, we should be connected, with our culture and how we really are, instead of being Americanized.
Well, and that's where I think when we think about the term American, you think about all the cultures that preceded us, whether it was the Germans or the Irish or the English, and everybody kind of set up their own encampments. Plus we had the Native American Indians and all their different tribes. So our culture is really a hodgepodge of many, many cultures.
Yeah, nowadays it's very diverse.
Yeah,
It's very-
it is. And certainly the Indian culture has a lasting impression on folks in many regards, one of them being the bracelets. But I think some of these outfits, I think this would be a good one to have sticking power too.
The bracelets are actually called chudia. I'm sorry to give you a hard
so
word.
Much. I do. I need to use these words because they're hard to get my mouth around.
Like how
my
you say
mind.
bangles, but it's chudia in
Judia.
chudia.
Siege.
C-H.
Yeah.
Judia. Wow. I really love to dance, but I love to watch other people dance even more, especially when that dancing is as beautiful, as interesting, as intricate as the dancing that I have seen from some of our Indian neighbors. So in particular, I'm very pleased to be able to introduce to you today. We have Amrinder Baines, who is the advisor, the teacher for Bridging the Seas Club, the Indian Club at Kent Meridian High School. Amrinder,
Yes.
welcome to Kent Today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about this Bridging the Seas Club.
So, Bridging the Seas Indian Culture Club is housed at Kent Meridian High School, and I opened this about 5 years ago for a purpose. I saw that the Indian students at school were not participating a lot at the multicultural assemblies, at other festivals, and they were very low key. And it almost seemed like that they needed a place where they could feel comfortable. I opened this about 5 years ago, and ever since then, our club has only grown. We started that as like a homeroom kind of thing, but then we started sharing our culture, and we had other students from other cultural and ethnic backgrounds join our club as well and get to know about India, Indian culture, and the Indian dances as well.
How many students are there now?
We have about 20 students this year. Boys as well as girls, and different ethnic groups. We have Filipino kids in our club, Hispanic kids, Caucasian kids, as you can see Chantal's here representing that. So a lot of different cultural students from different cultural backgrounds come in and like to learn about the Indian culture as well. And I'm more than happy to share what our culture is about.
Well, and with the dancing, because we are going to be able to actually see some of that dancing with 5 young women from Camp Meridian High School. Are all of these from the Bridging the Seas Indian Cultural Club?
Yes, that's right. They're all
Okay.
from there.
And what is the most challenging for you in finding time to be able to do this? Because are you also teaching at the school? What is the rest of your life like to be able to also take on a club?
My rest of the day looks like 5 hours of teaching, 1 hour of planning, 3 hours after school meetings, and other deadlines as well. But I enjoy with these students. And that is why it's important for me to take some time out from my regular week. Like we meet every other Monday after school. And that is important for us because it gives us a place to talk about our culture, have fun. And it keeps these kids and us motivated at school as well. And that is the reason we do this. But you know, a teacher's life is a busy life, but then these things are also important for our soul. And so we do that.
That's a great way to put it. Tell me this. I look at the outfit you're wearing. You're absolutely gorgeous.
Thank
It
you.
looks different, though, than what I have seen traditionally for Indians to wear. And then I look at the students, and they have these wonderful baggy pants. Like, what are these called again?
Salwar. Salwar.
Right. Salwar. All right. And they're so comfortable. And I look at your dress, and it looks like it's Southeast Asian, for example. So tell me about your dress and the dress that the young girls are wearing.
So the young girls are wearing the traditional salwar kameez, and I am wearing something that's an amalgamation of the Western as well as the Indian culture because it represents our club, Bridging the Seas. So we try to bridge the seas between the two cultures. We don't give up on either one of those cultures. We want to be successful here in America, but we do not want to forget our culture as well. That's why we have Bridging the Seas, and that's what my clothes represent as well. This kameez is still the Indian traditional kameez, but we pair it up with skinny pants, which are a little bit more comfortable and to walk in as well, and kind of give a little westernized look to it.
Well, tell us a bit about the number that we're going to see.
This dance in particular, again, is a mix between Punjabi songs. Most of the students at Camp Meridian are Punjabis, but we do not want to give up on the other Indians as well, so we include a Bollywood number as well.
Ah, so Bollywood comes from what part of India?
It comes from southwest India. It's from Mumbai, and Mumbai is in the state of Maharashtra, and that's where it comes from. And Bollywood basically represents all of India itself, not just one Marathi culture or Punjabi culture. It represents everything.
Bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out, out.
I feel like I'm connected with my culture every day, and it feels good knowing that this is coming from my background. And I love being a part of every occasion. Like, I really get to meet tons of different families here, from like the Bengali community, Hindu community, Muslim community. And it's great that Henna can bring all of us together, being part of different types of Indian and being a part of different cities in India. This is one thing that brings all of us together. So what I'm applying on her right now is henna, and the henna is a paste that's taken down from actual henna leaves. It's grinded, and there's lemon juice, eucalyptus oil, sugar added in, and then that mix sits for 48 hours and it releases a dye. Then that paste is put into these tubes, and after the paste is dried and flakes off of her skin, it releases a dye on our skin that kind of looks like this. It's part of our tradition to have bridal henna on your wedding day, or a bride's pretty much incomplete without it. There's like a little joke behind it saying that the darker your henna is, the deeper your husband's love is for you on your wedding day. The common bride usually gets their hands done, starting from their fingertips up to their forearm or up to their elbows. And on their legs, they get it up to their ankles or up as high as their knees. Yeah. The bride usually gets pretty uncomfortable too, because she can't move or eat for several hours. Usually there's family members there that's feeding her and giving her sweets. I can't explain to you how many different types of sweets have to be in a wedding. Everyone is on a sugar high. Very colorful. Traditional bridal color to wear for a bride is red. There's tons of people. I would say that there's no Indian wedding has less than 300-400 people. It's a 4-day event. This is the beginning of it. Usually henna is like day 2, and then it moves on to everything else. 4 days of good partying, though, I must say. So the brides usually apply this 48 hours prior to their wedding. And it's not just weddings that we have it. There's several different events and celebrations, like Diwali is one of them. I know the Muslim culture or Muslim tradition, they do it during Eid, right? So Eid is a big one, but there's several different times that you could do it. And people nowadays just do it for birthday parties or really whenever they want. I've always been pretty in tune with my culture. I am first generation American, and I feel like I've always been pretty close and connected to it. I know that growing up, there's several people that probably wouldn't want to be as connected because they would want to be more Americanized, but nowadays it's all about being different and standing out, and a lot more people are more open to educating their friends and family on the Indian tradition. So there's like a little before and after effect for you.
I think if there's one word that's synonymous with Indian food, it's spices. And most people, even if they've never cooked it or eaten it, can know that Indian food is really based around the spices. And so here we have our spice aisle, and there's a lot of different spices that we cook with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to cook with all of those, and I think that's where people get really confused and also overwhelmed, is that, oh my gosh, there's like 50 spices here. Do I have to cook with the 50 spices? No, you don't. I usually cook with maybe 4 to 5. That's it. Cardamom is really popular in Indian cooking, and it is used in our chais, so like the masala chais. It has a really sweet kind of fragrant taste to it. Clove is another spice that you can put in your chai, and it's really strong. You don't want to put a whole lot, so if I make a cup of chai, I put maybe 1, and that's it. just because it's, I mean, in our food we talk a lot about like heat and cold properties, and so this is a very, very hot. You don't want to put a whole lot in your chai. This is really key when you're going to cook Indian food. It's called the garam masala. And so a lot of people just make it at home. You can just roast some of the spices and then just grind them in like a coffee grinder at home, and then the spices will be much more fragrant because you've grinded them right away. Or you can buy it if you just don't know how to make it. So in this, it just completely depends on what you want to put in it. A lot of people do put some of these spices that I had mentioned that are just for the chai. You can put that in the garam masala too, but that, like I said, that is your own recipe and your own call if you'd like to do that. It's in everything. It's in our clothing, our jewelry, our just everything that you see. It's just very vibrant and definitely not bland at all. Nothing in our culture is like that, even the music. So turmeric is really important. Turmeric is a spice that, one, is super healthy for you. It's really good. If you could just take a spoonful, put it in your water, and then just drink it, and it's great, for your insides. This is what gives Indian food that yellowish curry kind of color. This creates that color. So if you get it on your clothes, a lot of the older, I guess I'd say aunties, the women, kind of like my mom's age, definitely when they've come from India, I don't know, it's almost like everybody's just a doctor in their own right, because everybody just kind of has like this knowledge of, this is hot and this is cold, this is how it's going to affect your body. You should eat it, in the summertime, in the wintertime, you don't have too much of this, or, in the morning or at night. And so I think hasn't really been passed down as much into my generation. Chai is hugely popular in India, and just in Indian homes, even here, anytime you go to someone's house, they're going to make you a cup of chai. And even for me, someone like me, I can't have dairy. I mean, I could put soy in it, or there's other options, but chai is just it's like just kind of binds our families and our culture, and it's one of those things that's really integral. This is actually my favorite, is the red label right there, the orange pekoe tea. You could put a little bit of that, have it boil for just like, less than a minute. It's not going to be strong, but if you just keep on boiling, it's going to be just very, very strong chai. So that's up to you. Other preference, how much milk you want to put in it. If you just want to put in a little bit, it's going to be really strong. If you want to put a lot in it, it's really going to water down the tea a lot. A lot of people put ginger in there, different types of masalas in there. It's whatever you prefer to put in your spice. I love saag, and that is all the greens, and then it pretty much cooks all day long. So it's like broccoli and cabbage and mustard seeds and spinach, and it just boils and cooks all day, and then it kind of makes it into a smooth paste, and then we put a little bit of corn flour in it to kind of bind it together. And then we put a saute of onions and garlic and ginger, and just kind of mix it all together. I love that. It's really good. It's really yummy. This is the chickpea stew right there. That's been cooked, just in the saute of the spices and onions and garlic and ginger. And it's a little bit watery. And then we serve it with a sauce that we make here. It's kind of a sweet and sour sauce, but that's just, it's preference. You could have a sweet and sour sauce. You could have a really spicy green sauce. And this has a little bit of tamarind in it, which we use a lot in our cooking as well. And then today I just put it in with the samosas right here. And they are made out of white flour. We just make them into a kind of an outer crust, fold it in, and then inside we have potatoes, we have spices and peas, and then we fry it. And it's really popular. Sweets are definitely very big in our culture. When you have an event at home, you have somebody over, you have any type of wedding, huge function or festivity, sweets are going to be a part of it. I mean, it doesn't matter what the event is, sweets are going to be a part of that event. And so when you have a wedding, you're going to give a box of sweets with the card. That's very typical, very common for people to do. When you have a baby, first thing you do, you give a box of sweets to everybody that you know. It's like in anything. I don't even know, like whatever you have at your home or any type of occasion or, you know, happy event, you're gonna have sweets, Indian sweets.
I want to thank you for representing the Indian community on the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Right. See us next time on Kent Today.